Content warning. This podcast contains bones, blood, smut, and swear words.
Act 1. Welcome, penitents. Hello and welcome to the Frontline Fifth, a Locked Tomb podcast where a group of dried-out bone witches squabble over what they really know. So here's the deal, listeners. We attempted to do a giant Murderboard episode, and it was too big for us to swallow, just like John swallowing the earth, Alecto. It's a Hollywood hair Barbie situation. This episode starts in the middle of that conversation. Good luck, patrons. Good luck, listeners. No, thank you so much thank you. This was important. I was going to move on to the fact that there are more defectors to BOE. So about 26 years before Gideon was born, BOE got a demagogue, Commander Wake. And Commander Wake actually ends up interfacing with multiple lictors, with Source Piotra and Source Joyeuse, aka Augustine and Mercy Morn, who conspire with her in a sperm heist. She also has a love affair with Source Aegis, which is Pyrrha and or Gideon. That sperm heist.
Still stuck on sperm heist.
And sperm heist.
They sperm jack God. Commander Wake impregnates herself.
I don't like that.
No one likes that. You should not steal sperm. And we get baby Gideon, child of gods. And Gideon ends up on the 9th house. Gideon obviously has an unusual birth story, but she also is an unusual person. And I want to talk about that. The first instance of true kind of weirdness is that when she's about a year old, the Reverend Mother and Father murder 200 babies in order to produce Harrowhawk, to produce a necromantic heir of the line of the Tombkeeper. And despite the fact that Gideon was a baby right next to the air vent that the poison was coming through, she survives. And this scares the shit out of the Reverend Mother and Father for the rest of forever. Clearly, Gideon's got something weird going on. What do you think about Gideon? What do you think is...
What can she do? Is she special? What's her deal, though?
But, what's her deal?
Okay, well, I separated this into, we know physically that she can, either maybe self-resurrect or is just a super survivor of, the nerve agent, the entropy field. I don't know if that's a process of just reconstituting versus plain old surviving, not dying ever. We've kind of talked about those options. Physical realm, yeah, we also talked about she's inherited John's genes.
Right.
And her body has this sort of physical stasis after her soul has been taken by Harrow. She has no rot. Maybe that means that microbes won't touch her. By the way, normally empty vessels like this would be a huge red flag, but she's just being hauled around for months without problems.
That's a good point.
It's a phenomenal point.
So things don't seem to want to touch her. So physical realm, those are some features. In the soul realm, she also seems a little bit special too, though.
Can we pause on the physical stuff real quick? Okay, so I want to say one thing, and I only thought of this with what you were saying with the lipochrome. So let's imagine she has John's genes, and his genes code for relatively amber eyes, light brown eyes. And only when Alecto was involved with John did his eyes change to gold. Does the fact that Gideon has gold eyes imply that she has inherited not only his genes, but also the connection to Alecto and some degree of power, right?
Yeah.
I think there's also something really gross as long as we're talking about the sperm heist, which is it shouldn't have worked. The sample should have died, but it didn't.
Yeah, but they have superstasis powers. They don't rot.
Right.
The sample,
they don't senesce.
The sample itself.
It stays functional for 12 weeks
a while.
After. Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, there ain't no -80. It's careful.
It seems like
culturing.
Gideon's soul is anchored to the physical world or reality, right? Every time she's supposed to die, it's just nope. And then the only time she actually dies is when her literal soul gets eaten, right? And is voluntarily given up from her body.
Almost trapped, right?
Yeah, so it almost seems her, because when she's dying from the entropy field, she's just sitting there, and it literally reads almost as a near-death experience where her soul is basically flitting back and forth, right, between kind of death and she's memories and talking and babbling. It's just It just seems like very similar to John when he reconstitutes. It's just like he's like she's almost like anchored to the land of the living, basically, right? Like,
yes. Sorry, I love this. I never thought of her as dying multiple times until you all brought it up. But it is true that actually, if you go back through after the entropy field, Camilla says, "My necromancer said you should be dead," right? Like, this is a thing that should have explicitly killed a person. I think this is very, very interesting.
We watched Jod actively reassemble himself.
Yup.
From component parts.
All right. Tell me about the soul, Brooke.
I feel like her soul seems a little bit special too, which maybe it's less obvious, but like, I guess Harrow kind of helps her stay divided. But even like when she pops up in Harrow's body, like as the Cavalier that's been sort of absorbed, she's still independent, functional, can talk. We've never like that's outside of Pyrrha, like that's very unusual. And has full recovery powers, has the full lictor powers, like, or at least can like grow back limbs, like all that weird stuff. So like as a soul, she's working in a necromancer's body. Okay. As a revenant, she like somehow gets extracted from Harrow, which is supposed to not work, and then get put back into the body.
It's the parallel for John and Alecto.
Explain that.
A part of them getting put in the other body.
Part of, like they get eaten, and then she gets split up in the same way. Like part of her is the lictor process, and then part of her is Alecto/Kyriona.
And that would be why Kyriona is a little bit of a bitch, as she's got some Harrow attached to her.
Yeah, which like it mirrors the process that John did with the soul of Earth, is consume most of it, and then there was too much of it, and or like part of it didn't get consumed and is
section it off.
Yeah, is split off and put into a body. That's one he didn't create, but he just like it's the exact same thing.
But only in a biological sense.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But you know what I mean? It's the same. It's the same thing. It mirrors.
Yeah, actually, John, I think this is completely fucking brilliant. This is, I think it's a great point that it is a direct parallel, the splitting in half, which also brings up some weird Russian nesting doll parallel shit, because now you potentially have Harrow, who has consumed part of Gideon, who is John Alecto,
part of God,
who is like, yeah, exactly.
Earth.
Yeah, that's super chaotic.
But she also has this other potential source, Gideon, of some sort of like soul superpower that Commander Wake is OP'd as a soul.
Yes. Okay, so I am so glad you brought this up, because I'm obsessed with Wake. I'm scared. I don't know what it is that just scares me about her, but I'm afraid of her. So she is incredibly gifted in the river. Not only does she have such a strong spirit that she's able to hold on for literal almost 2 decades, right? She is in her bones and then in a sword. I like the idea that she potentially is haunting in Gideon herself as a child to some degree, which I think would be interesting. But regardless, she holds on really tight. And then when she's in the river bubble, she has control. She has better control than Harrow does, right? She says, "This is me on easy mode."
Enforcing her will.
Yes. So she's really, really strong. Do you think that there's anything special about her, or do you think she's just that much of a, like, I will tell you my other completely unhinged theory is that I think that Wake is potentially from old Earth. She says at one point that she's going to burn, it's in a note she's writing to Gideon/Pyrrha, that you will burn and burn and burn until there is no trace of you left in the shadow of my long lost natal son. Which is one line.
I think I was super sold on that for a while, is that somehow she was from Earth too.
It's weird that she pops up. It's weird that she takes over Blood of Eden so thoroughly. And it's also weird that she has really, it seems almost as if she is necromantically gifted, a thing that we only believe occurs in the 9 houses, right?
Why do you think she's necromantically gifted?
That's exclusively just because she's so good in the river, which maybe is bullshit. Maybe any soul can learn how to be good in the river.
Or some of carrying John's child rubs off on her while,
Oh God, that might be an interesting thing too.
That's very interesting. Actually, I really like that
idea better.
I think it's an interesting idea, and I hate it. Like, I just hate the concept of it. I think it's a great, valid.
I think chimerism is so cool.
I refuse. I like that idea way better. I do not believe that Wake was necromantically gifted because she fucking hates wizards.
Yeah, but you think there are no people who hate themselves? There's so many people who hate themselves.
Yeah, but I don't know. That felt... I could be wrong. I don't know that... I don't have life experiences with that, but...
We've already talked about how Harrow is born with a type of resurrection. We have not talked much about how Harrow actually breaks into the tomb when she's 10 years old. And part of this clearly has to be using the blood under her fingernails from Gideon when she scratches Gideon bloody. But this also goes to what you were talking about with multiple potential resurrections. Breaking into the tomb explicitly requires both cells from Jod and a huge Thanergy burst, like killing Crux at the end of Nona. So it's possible that, did Harrow actually kill Gideon? Or did Harrow actually kill herself? This was on the day that she had decided she was going to commit suicide as a 10-year-old.
Oof.
I'm starting to wonder if, like, Lictor is very close to Lich, right? And, like, similar. I'm starting to wonder if there's actually phylacteries. Like, if there's, like, some version of that in this universe where, like, John and Gideon correspondingly are anchored somewhere, and in the same way, like, the resurrection, like, Harrow is anchored somewhere.
I think John explicitly is, and I think all of the lictors explicitly are, because they are anchored by John more so. John is explicitly anchored by Alecto's existence. And that's, like, in text. He can't die as long as she's alive, and she can't die as long as he's alive.
We've only seen lictors get killed by either other lictors / necromancers, resurrection beasts, or God. Right? Like, that's it.
Can
Correct.
confirm.
Okay.
Hard to kill a lictor. Turns out that lictors can die, which means that they need to replace them, which is why when Harrow is 17 and Gideon is 18, they end up going to these kind of lictor trials at Canaan House, and where hopefully, 8 more lictors will arise in order to serve the king undying. I'm sure there's lots to talk about here, but all I want to fucking talk about is, like, the physics of the space. I don't know why I'm so obsessed with this. Regular listeners will know that I have been talking about this throughout our first season. I think that there's something really weird about Canaan House, so I want to tell you a little bit about it. Teacher in Harrow the Ninth says, the base of Canaan House dates back to before the resurrection. We first built upward to get away from the sea. And indeed, the bottom of Canaan House is the facility, which seems, as far as I can tell, to be literally the facility that the cryopreservation project was part of, and additionally the facility where the initial lictors did their tests and tried to figure out the eightfold word in the lictor process.
Yeah, I was wondering, but so it was written, like, with the what is it called that Palamides does, the dating stuff, whatever that is.
Yes.
That it was like 9,000 years old, and I was like, okay, so that's not actually the cryo project, but was there also a discussion of that being super imprecise?
Yes.
Right.
So
okay.
Those are the new labs.
Here's the problem. There is basically Canaan House itself is falling apart, right? It's described as super decrepit. It also is described as having a mixture of super old shit and super new shit. Side by side, there'll be the Sonic, which is the, like, new version of the bathtub that is the old version of, do you know what I mean? There's a real medley of things in the upper part of Canaan House. And in the upper part of Canaan House, Palamides and Camilla at one point say 6 readings. Oldest is 9,000. Youngest is, 50-ish. Emphasis on ish. 9,000. 50-ish. Building. Fiat Lux. Either this entire building was scavenged from a garbage hopper, or I am being systematically lied to on a molecular level. And I was like, what the fuck? And I've been obsessed with this passage ever since. This is like 2 seconds. It's not relevant to the plot, and I just don't know what's happening. Because
I honestly think it's a classic Tamsin of it's actually both. They built this building with scavenged pieces from all over the place, and then also God fucked with things, and, like, part of it's in the river, and so they are being lied to on a molecular level.
Yes. Okay. So I will say that Marie and I agree that at the very least, the facility down below with the laboratories and the Lictor studies with those weird, animal skulls on them, I think both of those are embedded in the river. And I think that they are embedded in the river because they are perfectly preserved. Unlike the rest of Canaan House, they are literally perfect. Nothing has decayed.
Minus, like, papers.
Well, the papers and stuff are still, like, there, right? I mean, she's opening photo albums that have scribbled out faces in them.
That's true.
So there's something about that is truly perfectly preserved. And to my mind, perfectly preserved at around 9,000 years ago, even though the actual facility is probably 10,000 years old, because it's probably where the cryopreservation project happened.
Which would explain the names of the rooms. Like, what do you need a preservation room for if you're a necromancer?
gorgeous. So the facility has several signs on it. Laboratory 1 through 3, laboratory 4 through 7, laboratory 7 through 10, pressure room, preservation, mortuary, workrooms, sanitizer. And I agree with you, Brooke, that some of these seem like something that makes more sense with the original cryopreservation project than it does with the Lichter project.
Yeah, with fresh bodies, not necromantic situation bodies.
That said, there's still something really weird about this. And one of these is that there's a serious discrepancy. There are 10 laboratories. There are only 8 keys. What the fuck are labs number 1 and number 10?
So, like, in the end, the eightfold word, mimicking the 8 labs, is not a complete process. So, like, my idea is that there are, like, these missing pieces that for some reason got dumped. And, like, I don't know if, like, the original Lichters remember this, how they justify the parts that they left behind. There are pieces here that were dumped for some reason. Yeah, this is it's Pal's whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
From the very beginning of, like, this is not right, this is not complete.
And then I want to bring up 2 weird discrepancies that I don't know what to do with, but I want them on the table. So, 1. In Harrow the Ninth, when they first enter the river, the Emperor tells them to remember the projection trial back at Canaan House. It would have been in lab number 3. And Harrow starts thinking about what we know to be the winnowing challenge, which was in lab number 2.
Right. Yeah.
This could either be a genuine discrepancy or a Tamsin error.
I feel like it's got to be an error.
I don't know if projection to me implies that the necromancer would be projecting their will upon the cavalier as opposed to inhabiting their thoughts and experiencing what they are having.
No, I think it's more like the periscoping.
Yourself.
Yeah, like we're close to periscoping, right? Is what Cassie calls it in the river.
With the RBs. I'm more okay with that, but it still is interesting that lab number 3 versus lab number 2, and it's explicit.
Yeah, to me that sounds just like an editing trip up, which I don't know.
That's fine.
Maybe
I think that's more possible.
It doesn't seem important enough to whatever. It seems like
to obsess over. I shouldn't make a murder board about it.
I wouldn't recommend it, but do what you want. Maybe you're right. So one of, like, the weird things here that, like, I've never quite understood is, like, who are these Lichter trials really for? Like, at points we're told that this was the way that they figured out the eightfold word, that they were doing, we know that they did this before they became Lichters. Gideon and Pyrrha worked on it together. So, like, was it ever intended truly to be used to train future Lichters? And then, like, the fucking entropy field is, like, obviously not meant for anybody to survive. Like what? I don't really understand what the point was outside of, like, maybe Jod just being like, here's some ideas, go write some theses, and your graduation is going to be synthesizing them all.
I think one thing to keep in mind was that this was collaborative and they were all experts in something different.
Right,
and
exactly.
So it didn't even necessarily have
Feels
to be
very
a trial
university.
It didn't necessarily have to be a trial for somebody else to come and find.
You think
it was literally a trial for everybody else there.
Okay. So it was for themselves, and then maybe just later they're like, put the new kids in it too. See what happens.
That it just got sealed up and, like, perfectly preserved in the river and just left. And then they realized, like, oh, now that we need new Lichters, because there's a reason, like, everybody was so fucking traumatized. There's a reason that they didn't do this for 10,000 years or 9,000 or whatever it is.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
There's a reason that they didn't come back to do it again.
Well, I don't think they would need to.
Well, number one, they didn't need to, but also, like, they were like, this is enough and nobody else needs to do this.
Oh, right.
Because it also feels
pushing
very
against
much like
putting others through the trauma. Even Kit the Rhea was very like, this is super tragic. None of you guys want to have to do this. I'm just going to kill you all.
Right.
Bad conclusion. Somewhat good thought process.
It also feels like as much as they are perfectly preserved, they are not necessarily clean and tidy. They are somebody walked away one day and never came back.
Yeah, they walked away to become a Lichter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the never come back makes sense. There's literally, like, cigarette ash in the second house study. So there's one more discrepancy that I actually do want to bring up. This may be another, like, Hannah harping on one thing that doesn't matter, but Harrow ends up not coming back one day. Gideon has to go find her, right? Finds her in a, like, little shell of bone that she's built for herself, a cocoon of bone, in sanitizer, even though she's ostensibly been working in lab number 2 this whole time. And this is actually emphasized in the text. I think this is really weird. And to me, I think this means that Harrow was not just playing with the labs, but was also searching for the secret door, the 9th secret door theory that Palamedes accuses her of having. I think she's looking for what else is down there that's not easily accessible in the facility. And I think that goes to several comments that we get. Down there resides the sum of all necromantic transgression, the unperceivable howl of 10,000 million unfed ghosts. And Isaac says bodies were brought into here a long time ago, a lot of bone matter.
10,000 million?
Yes, which is
that's
10 billion.
10 billion.
Isaac says a lot of bone matter. The first feels like a graveyard all over, but this is worse. So I want to remind us that those 10 billion are potentially stored somewhere. And I don't know if the bodies and the souls are stored somewhere.
But they're on Earth. So yeah, like it's a little bit weird when you've already taken 10 million away, but maybe rounding error, you still call it 10 billion. But, and I mean, 10 billion, he killed 10 billion on Earth. That's how many corpses would be left behind.
Yes, but are those corpses stored in the facility somewhere or tied to the facility somehow?
I just think they're on the Earth. So, like, if the only contact point you have to the Earth is the tower, like maybe that's just like a little like touch point, and they're just feeling the bottom of the ocean.
Well, I mean, it's the souls, not the bodies, right? So, it's like, is this, like, I'm assuming this is where, like, Kent House is where he also did the resurrection, right? Like, we're assuming that this is in New Zealand, in the facility that they were doing their cryogenic research. And so he probably did the resurrection literally in the facility, right? And so is it just the cries of ghosts are, whatever the hell we end up with the tower and however we like square the circle. When it comes back to where all the ghosts and where all the souls came from and everything. It just, he threw 10 billion souls into hell, and it's just like, the screaming, to get the resurrection, whatever the hell he ended up doing, right?
So maybe it's just tied here because this is where it happened. But I do think, I don't know, I think Isaac's comment is particularly interesting, that the whole of the first house feels like a lot of death, but that the facility feels like something else altogether, like way more intense. And then the other thing that I think is interesting is later Jod will renew Harrow's house. And when he does that with bodies that he says, he hasn't resurrected anyone in 10,000 years, but at that time he set many aside for safety. And that would be literal bodies with, prepackaged with souls. So those presumably exist somewhere. Just a thought.
There's a little passing line when I was looking up all the Cassie quotes. It turns out you guys are all right to be zero focused in on her because wow, what a central little just lore drop every time you find that name in the books. And also love having a searchable ebook version. Anyway, one of the things they talk about is this tripod theory, and it's to put the lights on requires a body, a soul. What was the third one?
Thalurgy.
And so does he just inject them with thalurgy? Is that what's happening? To turn them back on?
That would make a lot of sense, actually.
Where does he get that?
Alecto.
She is the source of thalurgy. If it's a resurrection, then it's similar to what Harrow happened, which means you gotta kill in order to, you gotta create thanergy to give thalurgy. I don't know. I don't understand the balance here.
The maths, the algorithms, the theorems. All right. Well, while they're trying to figure out the theorems to become a lictor, basically there's chaos happening. And that's because Cytherea, source Chrysaor, uses this opportunity to kill a bunch of people. Ultimately, however, Gideon throws herself on a spike, Harrow becomes a lictor, Cytherea is defeated. So, and then comes a fuzzy part of the timeline that I really do want to explore really briefly. The next thing that we explicitly know is basically that Camilla, Judith, Corona, and Gideon's body are with BOE, while Ianthe and Harrow are on Erebos with Jod. There's a gap here, and it's a gap where BOE must have come and taken away Camilla and Gideon's body and Corona and Judith.
Jody.
Had to have happened first. Had to have happened before the cohort gets there and picks up Ianthe and Harrow. So,
and the leftover bodies.
Tell me the implications.
How cruel. I feel like the gaps between the books are so relevant.
This is a great point. This is we should be prepared for this, actually. Thank you. We should be prepared for this because that's a very Tamsin thing where she's like, I will skip an amount of time that's very important to you. Oh, somehow now Nona is on a different planet.
Yeah, I don't know. The way that I was going about this, Nona, who's Harrow's body, but now completely changed from the fucked up that she was in Harrow. The way I went about this was trying to figure out, like, in between the end of Gideon the Ninth and then the lobotomy, Harrow seemed to, like, know some stuff. And we learned this partly from her letters and partly from, like, Nona, I suppose, in the dreams. And I feel like I didn't really exhaustively map this out, but so help me out with here. But, like, she knows that BOE has Camilla, right? There's a letter for Camilla.
Yes. And she knows that Judith is not going to be on their side because her letter for if she finds Judith is to shut Judith up and kill her if necessary.
Yes. I also think that Camilla must have been passed out when BOE arrived. And so Harrow must have negotiated, I think,
I love
maybe for Camilla to go with them because, like, Pal explicitly says that Camilla would never have left Harrow voluntarily at that point, like, because she needed Harrow to access Pal back in the bones, and either Harrow just, like, hid from them to, like, make it along with Ianthe, or there was a negotiation. I don't know. Maybe Corona. Oh, I was thinking about Corona was also, like, as far as we could tell, like, active during this whole time period as well. Like, maybe Corona arranged this with Harrow in order to, like, get Ianthe to a safety and get her, like, recovered from her injuries. I don't know. The other thing that Harrow seems to know is that Kitharia is in the sword. Or, sorry, that Wake's in the sword. She knows something about the sword because she's like, you have to keep the sword on you. Don't let it touch blood.
So I think my assumption is that she fucked up. Like, my headcanon is that she fucked up and she thought that she put Gideon in the sword and she didn't actually know what she did. And so then when she wakes up and she can feel a presence in the sword.
She thinks it's Gideon?
She thinks it's...
But she knows it's not Gideon also.
Okay.
She wouldn't...
I agree. So she, in her first note to herself, she explicitly is like, study up on spirit magic because you suck ass at it. I think this is because she had to do spirit magic. She attempted to put Gideon in the sword and it was intense and a chaotic failure. And so I think that's like why she like insists on covering it with bone and blood and keeping it from stabbing other things. She doesn't want the spirit to transfer or something like that. I think she thinks that's true. There are a couple of places in various books where it's made explicit that she always hated that sword. So I think she always felt some menace from it, which is Wake in it. All of this, may or may not be true. But I think your point about negotiations with BOE are really well taken. I think that let's assume Camilla is passed out.
Like, we're assuming that there's negotiations. It could be that there are no negotiations.
Sure, that they show up real fast. The Harrow and Ianthe are, like, in a fucking perpetual bone bubble that they can't access, and so they just scoop up the people they find.
Can't be, because there's no world where Harrow lets them take Gideon's body.
Unless she's trying to keep it away from Jot for some reason.
Unless she tells them to take the body, there's no world where, like, someone tries to take Gideon from her, and it works. If she doesn't want it. Because they don't
take any other bodies, remember?
Yes.
And there's no way that they would know to take Gideon's body, but not say
Babs, Marta.
Marta's. Yeah.
Do we think, and this is just crazy, it popped into my head, do we think Ianthe and Harrow post Kitharia dying, like they figure out that they messed up the lictor process, like that there was a better, more perfect, like when they compare notes, or if they're like is there any way that, like, and Ianthe just doesn't care because Babs was a tool the whole time and, like, doesn't need a perfect lictor, and then Harrow figures it out and tries to do soul magic to get Gideon's, like, soul out.
Also, you have to remember the state that they're in. They may not have been conscious when Blood of Eden got there, and Blood of Eden doesn't want a fucking lictor.
Oh, that's true. Well, they want lictor. They do want lictors.
They've wanted a lictor this whole time, I thought.
They want a pet lictor.
Yeah, so maybe Ianthe would be perfect. This is part of why I think maybe Corona is involved in this more than we have any other reason otherwise to believe.
Yeah, I think that it's very possible that, like, Ianthe and Harrow weren't even conscious for most of the Blood of Eden
Corona handled it.
And Corona handled it.
I like that a lot,
I think that's
actually.
an option, too.
Because that also would explain why Ianthe doesn't know where Corona is, right? Otherwise, I feel like she would have a sense of, this all would have been figured out ahead of time. She would have known that she was going to find Corona on New Row, or would have had some way to contact her. I like that a lot, that Corona's the one who negotiates this and also tells them to bring Gideon's body.
Which I'm not sure what she knows that she would choose to do that.
I mean, maybe even Camilla was, and I mean, I don't know, but there's something, this is interesting. There's an interesting gap there.
Yeah, agreed. We don't have a lot to work with, but
well,
yeah,
you also have to
Corona's
remember
suspicious.
that for Blood of Eden, Gideon looks like her mother.
This is true.
I sort of agree with that, but I don't know that that's a good enough reason.
Okay.
She's just a redhead.
Let us move on. So Ianthe and Harrow, however they do, they end up on Erebos. Harrow writes a boatload of letters to herself and others. Ianthe helps Harrow commit a little light self-lobotomy. And then there's this famous quote we keep coming back to where Ianthe says she's going to see a man about a queen. So this brings me to one of our biggest points of contention, and I don't know that we're going to get anywhere. But what do we think is Ianthe and Coronabeth's plan? Because clearly they've got schemes on schemes.
Today, Pinky, we take over the world.
That's adorable. I got no fucking idea. I have no idea. Does anybody have like a thought at all?
I literally think they just are taking over the world.
I think they're definitely trying to put Corona in charge. I think Ianthe is second in command. That's my only thing.
I never like it when we decide to play Kingmaker amongst 17-year-olds or 18-year-olds. They're 20, whatever.
Crackpot theory is that with Ianthe's stasis side of things is that she basically figured out as part of the lictor process and everything else that she can't kill God, right? Like there's just no way. So her plan is to basically do to him what he did to Alecto, right? But like coincidentally, like Ianthe is just going to stasis God and try to like just freeze him so that she and Corona can take over the world. I think she knows she can't kill God. So like that's the alternative.
I kind of like that.
Actually, I really like that.
Queen's not ambitious enough.
Or it puts him in stasis so she can figure out how to become a god, right? Like, there's, I don't know. That's crackpot with barely any supporting evidence beyond a half-eaten apple.
I feel the supporting evidence we do have is that they want to be in charge because they think that God, like, is completely and totally mismanaging the known universe. And so they want to be in charge. They've figured out, like, they've done a lot of thinking about, like, what it would mean politically or, like, whatever to remake the universe in their own image. And they just have been looking for, like, the power grab opportunity.
Okay. Well, we're just going to leave that one alone and see what the fuck happens.
Let's just give credit where credit is due. They are very good at not dropping the dumb one-liners that everybody else lets slip.
This is true. Although, I mean, I hope in my heart of hearts that when inevitably I go back and reread all of these books after the fourth one comes out, I'll be like, God damn it! Because there will be a whole bunch of things where you're like, Easter egg, Easter egg, Easter egg.
I don't know.
But I'm going to be also honest. I am a little afraid that Tamsin doesn't know how to finish it. And that's because finishing is hard. The middle part is the easy part to write. The beginning and end is hard.
Do authors ever start writing a book without knowing how it's going to end? Because that just feels...
That's how I write 100% of the time, but also it's not like I've been published.
Patrick Rufus, George R.R. Martin, I think we have evidence of plenty of people...
Great points.
Like getting a series
that's
up and off the ground.
Is like
and
the
then
story will tell itself.
Well,
and then you get to a point where like, shit.
I'll figure it out when I get there.
As you write, even the ending that you had in mind does not work.
Yeah.
Also true.
You write yourself into a corner.
My favorite theory is that the ending of the Game of Thrones TV show was actually what George R.R. Martin had planned, just in an abridged way, and then he realized everyone hated it, while he was also trying to figure out how to untie like the 1,000 different knots that he's put in. And so like the book, the reason the book is taking so long is he's trying to figure out like the alternative way to tie everything together in a way that like,
that's really funny. He's like,
we'll
this
make him
didn't
the
work.
Hero.
Yeah.
Every version he writes is somehow broken.
Yeah.
Well, that's because he keeps putting a Starbucks cup into the background of all of his books. It happened in the last season and people freaked out. They just were being sloppy. That's really what it is. Okay. We get all the intensity of Harrow the Ninth, which has fuck ton of details that are fascinating, but not much plot. So we're going to sum up the plot with this. Harrow and Ianthe live on the Mithraeum with Jod, Augustine, Mercy, and Giddy One. Harrow is being triply haunted by the body, Wake, and Gideon, and can't recall Gideon. There's some river bubble shenanigans. Augustine and Mercy attempt to kill Jod twice. It doesn't take. While all the shit on the Mithraeum is happening, BOE has Camilla, Corona, and Judith Captain, along with Gideon's corpse, so that's nice. The end of Harrow the Ninth is pretty chaotic. Mercy gets exploded. Giddy 1 dies fighting number 7, although I will point out again, this is Varun and it's off screen and I'm not sure it happened. Pyrrha takes over Giddy 1's body full time. Augustine gets sucked into a stoma. The usual shenanigans.
So that means Mercy, totally a revenant.
Right? Mercy roll dead, probably.
Giddy 1? Question marks we've already established.
Yep.
Yeah, Augustine. I think Augustine's SOL.
This is bye.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, R.I.P.
All right, we also have a fun little switcheroo that happens. So, Harrow's soul, which was in a river bubble, manages to walk to the locked tomb and lie down for a little light reading.
Which also kind of validates the probability that the tomb is in a river bubble as well.
Yeah,
Given,
or is
like, all
somehow
the saltwater
connected to
stuff.
the river in some sort of physical way for some amount of physical, right?
Maybe.
Okay. Gideon's soul, which was in Harrow's body, somehow is expelled and ends up in her own corpse again. We believe Jod is involved with that. Is that fair to say?
We see a resuscitation event.
We see a resuscitation event where basically what happens is she dies, she sees the body as she's being resuscitated, and it speaks with the doubly wrong voice. And I think that's probably because it's Pal's voice through Camilla's body, through the body of Alecto projected onto that.
In the river?
Basically, we know that Harrow's body ends up with Cam and Pal, and that they rescue her while she's hurt, and that Alecto is inside of that body. So I think that the body displaces Gideon, and Harrow's body with Alecto inside of it ends up as Nona with Cam and Pal. This is the most insane set of words. Can you imagine if you hadn't fucking read these books, like hearing this, you would be like, what the fuck just got said? Like absolutely nothing.
I still don't know what just got said.
Oh my God.
Barely grasping.
Because this is, okay, so Alecto's soul, which was haunting Harrow and playing hard to get, ends up in Harrow's body, but also with some sort of suppression structure that's Nona, in order to kind of limit her Alecto memories, which would otherwise destroy Harrow's body.
Poor Harrow's brain is just getting traumatized with various features that are suppressing memories and stuff.
One other thing is, how did they get Gideon's body back? We still haven't.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't know how it's acquired. That's true.
Here's Nona's birth story. It's very unclear what happens, and my straight up theory is that Tamsin couldn't be bothered to write it and wasn't sure. But here's the birth story. We met you when the warden saved you after you were hurt. We found you in Pyrrha. You were hurt. Pyrrha helped us escape from an attack. We lost people, ships, something very important. So that's Camilla saying that. I think what happens is that Cam and Pal are searching for Harrow. Tessaphon Wing is attacked and something precious, presumably Gideon's body, is taken by the cohort, by Jod et al. They managed
this is in real life?
I think so. I like outside of the river in a real physical realm. I believe
so there's 2 layers of events happening. One that's happening in the river with Pyrrha and Harrow and Gideon's.
Yeah.
And then, okay, the Gideon's body. Oh my God,
so
what
I think
mess.
Gideon's body is getting recovered at the same time as Cam and Pal managed to get to Harrow's body, which had Gideon in it, but now has Alecto in it.
And it's her physical body that was in the river.
Yes.
With Pyrrha's body. Or sorry, Giddy 1's body.
With Giddy 1's body, in which is Pyrrha.
Jeez, fucking Christ.
Did it help to have any of these squares? It made sense in my head. I was like, Giddy 1's body with Pyrrha inside. The tomb with Harrow's soul inside. Harrow's body with Alecto's soul inside. Gideon's dead-ass body with Gideon's soul inside. Okay.
Right,
all right.
Yes.
Whew. All right, so there's absolute chaos in terms of whose body and soul is where, but we end in a situation where Pyrrha and Giddy 1's body, Camilla and Palamedes, who are living together in Cam's body, and Nona all end up on New Row, all end up as part of the Lictor Project, where BOE is trying to get a pet Lictor because they still believe that this is Harrow Hark Nonagesimus. In the course of this, Cam and Pal trigger the break clause. The 6th house physically leaves the solar system and sends the oversight body to negotiate with BOE. However, BOE is not a single entity, is not about this, kidnaps the oversight body, it all goes to hell. Alongside all of this is Pyrrha, a character that I fucking love. But increasingly, I am wondering if Pyrrha has her own shit going on. So, like, what's
All the lictors do.
Pyrrha's
They've had
deal?
10,000 years.
We have several instances where Corona says things about how you don't, like Pyrrha has a secret agenda, basically. You don't know what she thinks, and Camilla is silent. So do we think Pyrrha has an agenda? And if so, what is it?
Yes, no idea.
Loving
Seconded.
this, moving right along. We are so close to the
Anybody?
end.
Anybody have ideas? Like, okay, if we like parse what Pyrrha says
Uh-huh.
and what she does, the motive seems to be this feels so naive and wrong. Like, what we see from Pyrrha is that she wants to just go and have a quiet little life.
Which we love for her.
Like, is it that simple, truly? But like, that's kind of how she behaves at the same time, right? Like, she's going for the shuttle.
I think that's what she
Get
wants.
the fuck out.
But I also think she's going to realize that she's never going to get what she wants, And I think she's the kind of person who's going to take down the people in her way in order to save her people, which to me means she's a threat to God. Because I could see her coming at him.
Also so strange for somebody who is, and I don't know actually if Pyrrha has, if she is now mortal without her Gideon one.
We know she isn't. She drinks bleach.
Oh, right. Right. She's not completely immortal, but like maybe less immortal. I don't know. But her people are not immortal. Like, there are so many sad stories written about long-lived people not being able to really have a functioning, happy life with short-lived people.
Like Twilight. Okay, hold on. Let us keep moving. There are three more big things that we must talk about. We must. So here's one. While we're in Nona the Ninth World on New Row, we discover the angel, aka M, aka the messenger, or the message. So what we know is that the message or the messenger is BOE. We know that the message had two parts and that this part was passed to her by her forebear MSN, and she is AIM. And we know that the message is too simple for humans to understand. So I ask you, dear listener, and I ask you, dear host, what is the message?
It's the coordinates to the billionaires, trillionaires.
Is that useful? Is it
Jod
secret
wants to find them.
It's to keep it secret from Jod. But if BOE is part of the trillionaires, then it makes less sense.
I have no idea. This is one where I have nothing.
The message that is too simple for humans to understand almost feels like it's probably some sort of like old Earth mumbo jumbo.
I think so. I think that that's fair. I also think it's possible there's theories that I'm like, yeah, probably, maybe. That too simple to understand means that it is in binary.
God, so it's a program.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. So those are my two, is like coordinates in binary. That's why it's too simple. And then the other one I like is that it's just straight up Tamsin trolling. We'll find out the message at the end and it'll just be Icon has cheeseburger.
It's very possible.
It feels about right to me.
It wouldn't be the first
Two
time.
remaining parts.
The fact that none of us are like, she would never is a problem.
She says the message has two remaining parts.
All right. Well, let's just skip ahead. Here we go. Are you ready?
I have no idea.
Ultimately, Cam and Pal achieve a more perfect union in Paul, and everyone heads back to the Nine Houses to open the tomb. But to get there, they have to go through the river, where for the first time, a bell tower has cropped up. The river has a lot of structure that we don't understand, and we've talked a couple times about this. We don't need to get into the details. I think we're both on board with it having two banks at this point that you can cross between.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yes.
We know there are stoma at the bottom. I think it is really notable. We're going to talk about the devils in a minute, but it's very notable that the way the stoma is described and the way the devils are described is overlapping. There's
absolutely
all about mouths and teeth and tongues, right?
Gross.
We can talk a little bit about the river, or we can just keep on thinking about that. But I actually really think we do need to have a what the fuck is the tower moment.
Did you have to put in the most horrifying picture of a human mouth that exists on the internet?
I also want you to know initially
Murderboard?
I had a horrifying image of a cat mouth, but it was very explicit that it was human teeth, and so I had to replace it. You're welcome.
I don't think Jaws are supposed to do what they're doing in this
This
picture.
is not even that horrifying, Brooke. You need to spend more time on the internet.
No, I'll pass. Thank you, though. I appreciate the offer.
We have so many questions, right? We don't like. I think we have gone through the course of the series, going from like the river flowing out into an ocean to just crossing the river, right, from bank to bank, as opposed from source to mouth, and then like also just like the up and down nature of it, like having stoma, or I guess like portals to hell at the bottom. What the hell is a tower? We don't know. Is it a place that, again, there was like one random throwaway line in the middle of Harrow that has always stuck me, which is like, they figured out how to build in the river, or, they were building banks, or like they, created stuff in the river. And so is part of the tower where, they stick all these sacrifice to revenant souls. Is this where, they've just been trying to fill up this tower for, John's unexplained purpose, right? Is it, something along that line? Is it?
Well, it touches the bottom where the stomas are, right? So maybe it's almost like a bridge from the bottom to the surface would be a tower.
I don't hate it. There's a lot of thoughts that Canaan House is like somehow related to the tower, or is the tower, and that they are overlapping and as one.
And it's correlated with a period of resurrection, so maybe that's how Jod gets activated, right? It was activated once a very long time ago, around the time of the initial resurrection, maybe. And now again, here we know he's done a new resurrection for the first time, I guess, for the ninth house.
I don't hate that either, because it does say that it has been reactivated. I really had not thought at all about tying it to that ninth house kind of resurrection, but I like that he may have had to go and fetch some dead-ass deadies, some deads.
But our theory is that those bodies already had souls tied to them, and that the bodies were already there, unless that's where he was storing them. Oh my god, ew, that would be the worst possible thing. But people do ask where you put them, right? No, I'm saying they would have been through the stoma, but he fights really hard not to go through the stoma himself, so I can't imagine that's the case, but maybe the tower is built in order to access it safely. And
he describes the stoma as like the place beyond where he truly has no power, a place of chaos, as in the abyss,
so it wouldn't
and
be a good
unfathomable.
place to store bodies.
I mean, fuck if I know. I have no idea what the tower is, like literally no idea. And I think it's really interesting that it's specifically described as a bell tower.
And it's reactivated, which implies that it wasn't necessarily like consciously built by somebody that we've met necessarily.
All right, well, whatever it is, all of our friends transit through the river past the tower, and they safely land at the ninth house, only to find that it has been overtaken by devils. Yes, these are the creepy fuckers that take over a person's body, and they've got tongues coming out of their eyes, little sharp teeth poking through like their eyelids around the eye socket. We first encountered them at Canaan House because of Colum Ashed. So here's what we know. Colum was siphoned in two places that I think are in the river. He was siphoned in the facility, and later he was siphoned in a lictor study. He became a devil. It was really scary. And now, for the first time, we're seeing devils elsewhere. They are on Antioch. That's what they're fighting on Antioch. And they are now in the ninth house. So, devils. What the fuck?
The column stuff like makes me think it's gotta be just like normal ass fucking river ghosts, but the stoma is its own separate thing.
I think, I've already put this out there, I think that they are corrupted souls.
Yeah.
So Alecto says something about you left them too long at some point. So it could be like either he dammed up the river and so things can't escape, and so it's like the souls that have been stuck in the river for a while. It could be something where he they're like the souls that got corrupted from resurrection. It could be something that are just like even weirder and like completely kind of supernatural, even more so, where they like come through from the stoma.
Right. So I think it is either the option of they are from beyond the stoma, and maybe this tower is a sign that they can pass into the river and then access the physical world. Or, like, I think the whole point that you just said there of, like, you left them too long, like, we saw Calamities created this like connection between his spirit and a part of his body, or his soul and a part of his body. And like there was like little fragments, and like maybe that's all that's happening, is that like God had this little tenuous tie between each of these bodies that he has stashed and preserved and a soul, and then the souls are being left in like this little river bubble room. But like there's a description when Harrow first visits Calamities in that river bubble, just being like, can you imagine the mind that can hold on like for 8 months without going insane in this little room where nothing is changing? Like, to your point, like that would 10,000 years. Yeah. No, they'd gone insane.
We're also clearly going to have to deal with them. This is like part of it is not just where are they from, but like this problem is going to have to be solved. So I think it's going to have to be a like final laying to rest, fixing death kind of situation.
Which to me is maybe what part of like Cassie basically was part of. Like if she's going to be your spirit expert, she might be the first one to kind of like really see this as a huge problem. The damming of the river does seem like I agree. I think it feels like the river's been dammed. But one of the funny things about that theory of like, you know, fixing this, injecting thalurgy, whatever, getting these like resurrected bodies back, putting them on the 9th, wouldn't it be instantaneous that they'd become devils? Like if those souls were already corrupted, like they pop in, bah, gross teeth immediately. So like the progression is interesting.
Yeah, there's something weird here too. So at the very end of Nona the Ninth, there's many mentions of young Ninth Housers, even at the same time as Kiriona is saying things like that reemphasize that there should be no one young. And so those people clearly have to be some of the newly resurrected people, but clearly are not devils yet. So I agree. It's not everyone, or it's a slow thing, but there are...
Or maybe that initial like resurrection like quickly wore off and then left the bodies, and then there was this ability for new corrupted souls, stoma-like, to kind of pop in.
Right. If some of them were insufficiently resurrected and like it didn't take...
Because what's interesting, the bodies in the river that we see, like the ghosts, they're like they're eaten up. They're like they're parts of bodies.
Yeah, they're not looking like happy human.
It's not clear that it's corruption in the same way that like the devils are. So I wonder if those are separate from the devil concept.
The body parts look like they've been chewed. They're just body parts, right? They're pieces.
Right. To me, that soul feels different than like a devil type soul, which might come from beyond the stoma.
We should also remember the words, right? I mean, he's the one who calls them devils. Jod is the one who calls them devils. Jod is the one who defines the other side of the stoma as hell. So I also wonder if they are from the other side of the stoma as opposed to things that have been hanging out in the river. And it's mentioned that the 8th house sucks at the stoma like a teat is the phrase that Augustine uses. So it also could be something about there's some connection potentially there. Who the fuck knows? Okay. All of this kind of gets to the end. At the very end of Nona the Ninth, they break Alecto out. Alecto recognizes the blood of the Tomb Keeper, swears allegiance, and here's where we leave things. In the tomb, we have Alecto and Gideon, who both swear allegiance to Harrow. We have Harrow. We have Ianthe, who was just smacked by Alecto. We have Paul, and we have Pyrrha. Just outside of the tomb in the 9th house is Crux, Iglamine, assorted 9th housers, but notably not the two who were supposed to be guarding the gate. I think there's something fucked with that we're going to deal with. In the shuttle field upstairs, we have the 6th house oversight body, Coronabeth, Aim, Noodle, Pash, and Judith, who may or may not be dead. And elsewhere, general stuff happening. We Suffer still out there, Blood of Eden's still out there, Jod is still out there, and there are still devils on Antioch. That was really intense. Should we shut it down? Act 3. QED, it's a conspiracy. This more or less brings us to the end of everything that exists for the Locked Tomb. I'm devastated, but I think we're going to have to put away our Murderboard for a while and go play with other toys. But before we do, does anyone want to send out any last chaotic theories? And I can give you mine if you want to let me just start with mine. Ready? Cassie's not dead. Pyrrha's necromantic. Wake was from the OG Earth. And Noodle is one part of the message. That's what I'm throwing out there.
Noodle is one part of the message.
That's what I'm going with. Anybody want to top that?
I agree with a lot of your speculation.
The devils have always been a problem. That's why the beguiling corpse is frowned upon. And Harrow's parents are now devils.
Ooh, I like those.
My theory is that the tower exists as a dam or something that is blocking up the natural flow of life and death, and that's part of where Jod's powers come from, is not just the fact that he lictored Earth, but also that he has fundamentally altered the cycle of life and death, and is lying about it in a similar way to what he lied about for many, many other things. And the tower being reactivated. I really like this one post I saw on Reddit. I am fully on board with Harrow being part resurrection beast, in that she is like the combination of 200 souls that died in a violent death. This is, again, stolen from Reddit, so I did not come up with this, but I really do enjoy the fact that the reason that Harrow and Alecto, the reason that Harrow falls in love with Alecto is that, like, she is basically, right, like her own small resurrection beast. She is the sum of 200 lives, and RB is just the sum of all the life on the planet. So just at like a smaller scale. And obviously Alecto is a smaller scale piece of Earth. I don't know. I really like that. I think that really is just a fun parallel. So that's my other theory.
I'm here for it.
I like all the extensions for that of, like, if you kill Harrow then, or if Harrow has already died and she is the Revenant RB version of herself, like, can she recruit the Heralds? Can she create her own army?
I love that. Sorry, I love the idea of Harrow with little bees just swarming around her. There's something there.
They're going to be skeletal shit. I have no further follow-ups.
All right. Excellent. All right, last thing. Tamsin has said that the final book is going to have a wedding. So who is the wedding between?
Oh my God. I have an idea, but it's
Go.
Completely harebrained, and I didn't know this even until you just told me there was going to be a wedding.
But you responded in such a way. You responded so immediately. Tell me.
It's gonna be what's her name? Not Kithareo.
Kiriona?
Dulcinea and Paul.
Oh, Dulcinea and Paul? That would be lovely.
True love. She likes a good wedding. It's gonna be a good wedding.
Cute.
Because the last wedding we saw was Nigella and Cassie.
The one I think it's going to be the one that I think is telegraphed, is that it is Ianthe and Gideon, or Kiriona.
Ew, absolutely not. I refuse. I reject the premise.
I don't like it, but I think that's the one that it's like telegraphed to be. The one that I think would be actually really funny, but also really unfortunate that I've seen on Reddit that I think is interesting is that it is Coronabeth and Jod.
That's what I was going to say.
I'm going with it's Gideon and Coronabeth, just for them trying to marry into the succession
John and I
line.
are just like,
Actually,
I like
see
that one,
that.
actually.
Yep.
That works. Okay. Well, I guess we'll see if any of that happens in like 15 fucking months or whatever when we return with Alecto the Ninth. But until then, dearest listener, do not despair. In the Alectopause, we aim to continue to misbehave. You've already heard one of our random Alectopause episodes, but we will be trying to still put out an episode every week-ish. And hopefully,
don't hold us to that.
hopefully we'll try and keep up with our Patreon bonus games and bonus episodes. So we're going to cover some books, TV shows, short stories by Tamsin, movies, you name it. And we are thrilled to announce that we will be back next week with the first of our episodes on the Netflix animated series Arcane. Pew, pew, pew. Please check out our website, frontlinefifth.podbean.com. I will try and post our upcoming shows and books, etc., in case you want to play along. And you can always follow us on Instagram and TikTok, which are linked in the show notes. If you enjoyed this podcast, please tell your friends. Give us a 5-star rating anywhere you can. And of course, if you didn't enjoy the podcast, feel free to lie. It's also now been established that you can give us a 4-star rating and tell us why we're wrong about a character, and we probably will
very close attention.
We'll probably pay too much attention to it. You can negotiate with us for more. We have a Patreon, which you can join for access to bonus content every month. You can become a patron, and they all have yarn and corkboards at home at patreon.com/frontlinefifth. And you can check out our merch at our Redbubble store linked in the show notes. Finally, if you have any fun theories you'd like to share with us, feel free to email us at frontlinefifth@gmail.com. And with that, I'll just remind you not to unlock any tombs or enter any doors without permission because, ghosts. Bye!
Frontline Fifth is a Locked Tomb podcast conceived by Maria Mako and starring Maria Mako, Hannah Grenwald, Brooke Anderson, and John Ryan. Our cover art was designed and created by Maria Mako, who also edited this episode. Our fabulous music was composed and recorded by Blake Anderson. Sonia Grenwald designs our killer merch. Hot, gorgeous. The Locked Tomb series is a completely dope-ass book series by Tamsin Muir, who does not know we exist and is in no way affiliated with this podcast.